Welcome on Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, your host, joined by CJ Vogel. Doing a little roundup edition here. We've been talking to recruiting classes. I talked about the 2022 recruiting class being what I call the foundational recruiting class of Steve Sarkisian's tenure at Texas. 2023, I think, was the breakthrough class. I don't know yet what we're going to call the 2024 class, but that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. This episode is sponsored by our friends over at Allegiant Digital Marketing. We'll talk about them a little later as well. But CJ, what I think we need to do, it's, unlike the 2022 class, where I think largely the die is cast on that. We know how that one is turning out. 2023 is off to an incredible start, as we've kind of detailed. Let's take the 2024 class. 21 signees, or I think 20 signees, 17 of them arrived on campus already, and we saw go through spring. And rather than, project out based on what we know right now, I think the better way to really attack this class and talk about it is whether or not we think they're going to play right away this year. And if so, how much? Are there 3 or 4 guys that are standing out? Are there some guys that we think are now down the list based on what we've seen? What does it really look like? And let's get going. Does that sound like a good idea to you?
Yeah, I love that, Bobby. This will be fun, right? Y'all have done a great job breaking down the recent recruiting classes. 2024 is going to be interesting. And of course, going into their true freshman campaigns, Texas is in a position right now where depth is, of the riches, right? You don't necessarily need to be throwing out young, talented kids because of necessity. So there's a lot of depth. You won't be seeing a lot of, I'll say, opportunity will be much more limited this year than in years past for true freshmen to get on the field, just because there's a whole lot of other bodies that are capable, whether it be from the 23, the 22 class, or out of the portal that Texas has added. We'll see. I don't think this list will be too long, but I think the names will be very pleasing to a lot of Texas fans in terms of who will be contributing this fall.
Let's look at it position by position and start with Trey Owens. Okay, start with the quarterback. Young man out of Cy-Fair, looked really good in the spring. He is the clear number 3 quarterback right now. Not unlike Arch Manning last year at this time was number 3 behind Malik Murphy and Quinn Ewers. Sark seems to be pretty good about this. He gets his guys in, gets them some work. They're number 3, then they become number 2, then they become number 1. Owens had a terrific spring at least a terrific spring game. I wouldn't say for sure that he had a terrific spring overall, but he certainly showed ability. He's not going to be, however, CJ, in our opinion, a guy that sees much time this year unless it is literally he's the last man standing. You agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I look at it very similarly to Arch Manning a year ago, Bobby, right? Maybe at times you expected him to get on the field early, get some opportunity there. When Quinn Ewers went down, it wasn't his time. So Sarkisian sticks to his plan, allowing his quarterbacks to develop, don't be thrown into the fire too quickly. And for Trey Owens right now, there's of course, with the depth chart and the health at the moment, no real need for Trey to see the field. It would be great, of course, later in games for him to get in and see some drives. We saw Arch against Texas Tech when Texas was up by 43 points. He was able to go in there, lead a touchdown drive just to get his toes wet, get an idea of what it's like to play in front of 80 or 100,000 people, because that does take time. The spring game is a good, test for that, but as well, it's a little bit different on Saturday nights.
So if I'm reading this right, and this is how I would say it to people now with the new, it's not new, it's 3 or 4 years old, but the new redshirt rule, which allows players to play in 4 games and still maintain their redshirt, I would say best case scenario, Trey Owens plays in 2 or 3 games this year in mop-up duty as you described. And
I would agree 100%.
No more than that, as long as everybody maintains their health. But 2 or 3 games. Let's go to the running backs. Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark. This is a really interesting group to me, because after Cedric Baxter and Jaden Blue, then comes Trey Wisner. Wisner's a clear number 3 right now. But Gibson and Clark could be different types of back in short yardage that actually might see some additional time. If you look at it, Savion Red had that role a little bit last year, and now he transferred to Nevada for those that haven't kept up. Do either of these guys, Gibson or Clark, in your opinion, see time next year?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting spot. Running back under, whether it be Stan Drayton or Tashard Choice, they see the field, and it might not be at the running back position. We've seen it time and time again how important running backs are for special teams. And right now, I think that you'll see Christian Clark and Jarrett Gibson more in that special teams role, do either carve out that short yardage, maybe that wildcat, kind of system approach, that formation that we've seen Sarkisian like to throw out there every now and then, whether it be Roschon or a Red Cat, whatever it is. Do one of them take hold of that? Because I think that's interesting. Sarkisian likes that formation regardless of the results. It's one thing that a defense has to, kind of hone in on the week leading up in game planning and schematically preparing for a game against Texas. It's in the back of their mind. So I do think that there's an opportunity there for a Jarrett Gibson or a Christian Clark to earn some short yardage touches, but I expect both to be active in special teams, right? Jaden Blue played 9 games his freshman campaign. That's only with 15 carries, Bobby. So it's one of those things, again, it's kind of a rite of passage for Texas running backs to get on the field through special teams and earn their stripes into then extended carries. Happened to Trey Wisner last year specifically.
Yeah, I tell you what, Gibson is more of a special teams prototype, whereas Clark is a little smaller. He's not necessarily that prototype. I wouldn't be surprised, to your point, Gibson plays more special teams than Clark. And whether or not either one of these guys really plays, I think is going to depend on whether or not they become the short yardage guy over. They would have to beat out Cedric Baxter in that role. Yes. And I'm not saying – I don't think that's any easy thing to do, but we'll see if Gibson or Clark, one of the two, can happen to be able to do that. Right now, I lean a little bit more to Gibson because physically, he is so physically ready for the college game, especially in the upper body, whereas Clark is a lower body, low trunk guy. It's interesting. I think Gibson will play more on special teams. Could be wrong, but I would say Gibson may not end up with his red shirt. Clark may keep his as of right now. Okay. Just my guess. All right. Before we get going to wide receivers, and this is one of the positions I'm really excited about with Ryan Wingo, I want to mention our sponsor for the roundup, and that is our friends over at Allegiant Digital Marketing. Guys, if you know Chad Markham and his group over there, that they have helped a number of Austin area businesses through the years get the best out of their marketing dollars. So if you ever have problems finding new customers, consistent leads, finding marketing services to promote your business that actually work, founder and CEO Chad Markham with Allegiant Digital Marketing, an Austin-based ad agency, has helped thousands of business owners just like you for more than 25 years conquer their marketing needs. So if you're ready to start making money in your business and grow with confidence, visit allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball and get a free marketing plan today. Plus, you can save up to $2,500 in advertising with their Hook 'em Horns special. That's $2,500 in advertising with their Hook 'em Horns special. All right, CJ, let's go to wide receiver. And really the talk of the spring was Ryan Wingo. A tremendous prospect. We've talked about him. Here's what's happened since that time, though. And everybody saw him in the spring game, looked fantastic. I hear continued improvement from him. And everybody I've talked to 3 different people that have singled him out in one-on-one work and in teamwork as someone that Quinn Ewers is really connecting with, and whatever quarterback out there is connecting with. If there is a player on this list that I think is going to play every single game as a true freshman, I would, and if he's, as long as he stays healthy, I would bet my money on Ryan Wingo above everyone else. You agree with that?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely. And in terms of overall impact, who will have the most of this 2024 class, Bobby, to me, it's absolutely Ryan Wingo. And that's tough, right? We haven't seen, that circle be opened up to a lot of freshmen under Steve Sarkisian. It was Xavier Worthy who, out of necessity, was seeing all those targets. Jonte Cook, you expected to kind of carve his way into a role last year. He only had 8 receptions, right? It's tough for Sarkisian to open up that circle for wide receivers. However, and to your point, it continues to be the theme with Ryan Wingo that you hear him have that business-like mentality when it comes to improvement, development, taking care of himself on and off the field. And again, going back to the spring and what we were hearing then and the plays that he was putting out on the field, it's going to be very difficult to keep him off of the field at some point this year. So I look at him as a guy that will certainly find plenty of run this year at the wide receiver position. Who else of this freshman bunch? I think it might be a little tougher to decide right now. I'll be eager to see what kind of development from the spring to the summer and into the fall a guy like Aaron Butler has. I think he's got some juice to him. He's a receiver of the mold that you see Sarkisian have success with in the past. Does he have a role in some of those late game kind of shutdown moments, if you will?
Yeah, when they're trying to finish off the game, basically.
Definitely.
And they've got it easily in hand. I agree with that. I really liked what I saw from Parker Livingstone this spring. I thought that, when they took him, I understood why they took him. Long-limbed, long speed, big catch radius. Wasn't necessarily the highest rated receiver on the board by some people, but Texas wanted him from the outset. They really did. And people question that a little bit. I understand. Big target, big radius. I actually thought of the 4 freshman receivers, I thought he was the second best. I thought he was better than Butler in the spring. I really did. And so I can see him finding his way in there as that large receiver late in games too. Instead of Wingo, instead of maybe Golden or whoever's going to be on the outside, okay, I could see him eking that way in there. With Butler, I think the difference is he might be a return guy. And I definitely think Butler will be a special teams guy. And so
without doubt.
Yeah. And so I think both of those guys have a role. Freddie DeBose is still getting over a knee injury a little bit, was hobbled in the spring clearly. So we'll see. I'm going to reserve judgment on that. I don't expect Freddie DeBose to play any at all in 2024. Livingstone, I don't know if he'll meet the number on his red shirt status. I bet Butler plays over. I think he's going to be a special teams guy for them. All right, tight end, Jordan Washington, to play or not to play? This is a fair question, because we had the tight ends on Saturday morning for the Saturday morning conversation. Gunnar Helm, Will Randall, Juan Davis there. Right now, there are 3 tight ends in the rotation. Definitely in the rotation are Gunnar Helm, Amari Nyblack, as well as Juan Davis.
Yes.
Can Jordan Washington push into that? Because frankly, he's bigger than Juan Davis. Okay. I'm not saying he's necessarily the receiving target short term that Juan Davis is in the familiarity with the offense. But can Jordan Washington outdo perhaps Spencer Shannon and Will Randall? That will be the question, in my opinion.
I was just about to go there too, Bobby. Can he leapfrog into that tight end 3 conversation with Juan Davis? That's going to determine whether or not he hits that 4-game threshold or not. Because again, I think Texas is very happy with the 3 tight ends that currently sit 1, 2, and 3 on the depth chart. Whether it be Gunnar Helm, Amari Nyblack, Juan Davis, all guys have experience. They're familiar with the system, and you like the upside of what Amari Nyblack brings to the table with his skill set. However, and this was one that kind of surprised some folks in the spring, Bobby, is Jordan Washington's up to about 245, 250 pounds. His body looks physically ready to play football in the SEC at the tight end position. Obviously, looking and playing are 2 completely different things. So it is kind of one of those conversations of, if he does see 4 games, how many of them are meaningful snaps? How often is he in the game early on? Does he provide some down the field threat from the tight end position that gets him on the field earlier and much quicker than expected? I lean towards seeing him under the 4.5 game threshold in terms of on-field tight end usage. I do think that there's room for him on a special teams, maybe a frontline blocker on kickoff return. Who knows how this staff will use him, but he's such a unique talent and kind of physically ready already. I do think that there's a usage for him at some point on the field that will get him over that red shirt mark.
I bet he breaks his red shirt, and I'll tell you why. I think he's a future NFL player, and it's hard to keep future NFL players off the field. It just is. And I will add this, that weight gain you're talking about was natural because this is the first time, or one of the first times, he hasn't played another sport year round. He's focused solely on football because he used to be an AAU basketball player.
So really good basketball player.
Yeah, really good. And so keep that in mind. I just think it's going to be hard. I don't know if he's going to find a role as a better blocker, say, than Juan Davis in the 3 tight end set, maybe. Just keep your eye on him a little bit, in my opinion. All right, the offensive line, I think it's fair to say we think they're all going to redshirt. Whether it's Brandon Baker, Nate Kibble, Daniel Cruz. The one that might not and could eke his way into playing time is Brandon Baker if there are injuries. I think the other two, Kibble and Cruz, just behind too many people too early in their careers. Baker has the best chance if there's an injury to one of the starting tackles.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going 3 for 3 on the red shirts on the offensive line here, Bobby. But to Texas fans, and this should get you excited for the future, you're now able to redshirt a 5-star offensive tackle at the University of Texas. When was the last time, if ever, was that the case? It's been quite a long time for this depth to look the way that it is. And to your point, for him to see the field and break that redshirt, it would have to take an injury or several, because there are several guys in front of him that are very talented at at both tackle positions. I know he's primarily a right tackle guy, but plenty of bodies right now, plenty of optimism for the future, that, and specifically in 2024, that red shirt will be held intact.
Yeah, I think the 2024 class, we both agree, unless injury. I will say this: they apparently love Nate Kibble. By the way, we haven't talked much about him. We've already said they like Daniel Cruz, and if everybody liked what they saw from Cruz and Baker in the spring, Nate Kibble came in ready to go a little bit, is what I'm told as well. All right, let's switch over to defense here real quick. At the defensive tackle spot, Melvin Hills did not come in the spring. I think he's going to be a guy that's set for a red shirt. Alex January, though, is an interesting one. Does he get a red shirt or not? They took 3 defensive tackles in the transfer portal. I think that he's going to be one of those guys that's on that edge of maybe playing enough to not keep his red shirt. What do you think?
This one's interesting to me because at any point prior to the portal additions, Alex January is looking like a rotational guy. Now that you go out and you add 3 guys from the portal and you're looking very old within that interior defensive line group, do you work to preserve that red shirt? I think that's really interesting. Do you play him 4 games, get his feet wet, allow him to see game time, and then say, no, we're going to try to keep that red shirt on you? I think that might be what the case is for him, because he is a very talented defensive lineman. You don't see these guys too often. Unless injuries occur, that you're going to have experience and you're going to have depth on that defensive line. Now, if he's able to walk in and prove right away that he's a game wrecker, throw him out there, because everybody knows when you have those kind of guys on your D-line, things are much better for your defense. Until proven that way, I think that it's best suited long-term for him to potentially hold on to the red shirt, Bobby.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I just don't know, because I could see it going a couple different ways. If you think, let me give you an example of why I think it's a tough one in the decision that Steve Sarkisian is going to have to make a call on. If you think Alex January is going to be a starter in 2025, okay? Mm-hmm. If you think that he's definitely a starter or in your 4-man rotation, don't you want him getting 7 or 8 games under his belt as a true freshman?
Definitely.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
But now maybe he's not fully ready yet. But that's going to be the question for me is what does Sark and new defensive line coach Kenny Baker decide to do there? I think he's going to see time. I'm 50-50 on whether or not he plays over the 4 mark or not. All right, the edge position. Colin Simmons, the bluest of blue chips, comes in, as well as Zeno Miozulu. Well, like both of these guys, Simmons, though, we've been told is going to play this year. Just getting after the quarterback too much in the spring ball, during spring ball at, off times. I know that sounds weird, but we talk about players that have the ability to make off-schedule plays. Colin Simmons in spring practice was one of those guys. I think he's going to see more than four games this year. Zeno Miozulu, unless CJ, we think he's going to play special teams, I don't see him breaking that red shirt. You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Simmons, again, going back to the spring, this was a name that was mentioned as much as anybody in that conversation with Wingo as the freshman that impressed the most during spring ball, whether it be recruits, parents, coaches, whatever. They all were very impressed with Colin Simmons. Zena is very interesting, Bobby, because I think in any year previously, he's on the field for over 4 games. I think because that edge room might not have had the depth or the top end talent, you see him in games over the 4 mark threshold for the red shirt. This year, I don't think so, and I think he holds on to it. I just think with the reemergence of Colton Vosick, the addition of Trey Moore, and obviously, Finkley, Sorrell and Burke all returning. I mean, that's a lot of guys to bump out for snaps if you're Zeno Umeozulu, who again. To redshirt trench guys, never a bad thing if you're at the University of Texas. I think it's a crowded room right now for him.
I would agree. Anthony Smith's interesting at linebacker because I'm telling you, I think he's tailor-made for special teams. That's number one. Number two is, Texas loses next year David Benda and Mo Blackwell. And they've got to get somebody ready that's an outside linebacker type. Okay, physically capable. Is Anthony Smith that guy? Is Darren Gillette? I think Smith's going to break the red shirt, period, and primarily because of special teams, but he might find his way into games otherwise because of them wanting to get prepared a little bit for 2025 as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? There's not a lot of bodies in that linebacking room to begin with, and if you're looking a little bit forward to the future, it makes sense for him to get on the field at some point at the linebacking spot. Going to special teams, and I look back to Leonga Lafau a year ago, who amongst the Texas 2023 true freshmen had the most overall special team snaps? Well, it was Leonga Lafau. I imagine that they'll have that similar kind of mindset when it comes to Anthony Smith, kind of that linebacker. Of course, if you can get him up to 210, 215, maybe even 220 if you're lucky, that's a stretch there. But if that body's able to go, they're going to throw him out on the field. He'll be a gunner on kickoff. You'll see him on punt as well, I would believe. That's a kid that folks love his intelligence on the field, Bobby. I think that's one of the things that's very underrated and under-talked about when it comes to his game. His IQ on the football field is very high. Anthony Hill even said that he's more mentally mature at this stage in his college career than he was. He said that in the spring. So high praise for him. I think his brain will be one of the things that keeps him on the field in special teams. And he'll certainly get his feet wet a little bit in terms of being in the middle of the field on defense as well.
Let's finish up in the secondary where Texas signed 5 guys a year ago. Kobe Black, we've heard good things about him this offseason, leaning out his body a little bit at corner. Wardell Mack at corner, a young man out of Louisiana, and then Santana Wilson out of Arizona. Those 3, Wilson just showing up on campus this year. We don't know yet about him much. Then at safety, Xavier Filsaime and Jordan Johnson-Rubel. I don't know that any of these 3 corners are necessarily going to be year 1 players at corner. They may get worked into the games late, but I could see for sure Black and Mack spending time on special teams this year. Kobe Black maybe more so physically. What are your thoughts on those 3 corners getting real time in year 1?
Yeah, real time at cornerback, I think will be a little tough. Who's going to be the guy that's first off the bench and kind of those garbage time mop up duties? That's a different conversation. Real time and in the rotation, I don't think that there's a Manny Muhammad of this bunch that you can throw out there and fight for a starting spot this year. Of course, Javion Cole, Gavin Holmes, it makes things a little bit difficult there. who else knows what happens at cornerback 4 and 5? Does Texas move Jahdae Barron out? What happens? I think that's how far along is Warren Roberson as well. I think that plays into how much you see this group right now, Bobby. I lean towards seeing under 4 games from all 3 at the cornerback spot. But to your point, again, if Kobe Black's gotten his body ready to roll for a special teams role, it'd be hard for him, in my eyes, to not see the field. I lean for Santana Wilson and Wardell Mack. They'll red shirts will remain. The conversation might have been a little bit different if Wilson had arrived in the turn of the semester in the winter.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if I'm guessing to play or not to play, I think Black breaks the red shirt. I think he plays more. Mack and Wilson, I'm questioning. I think Mack has a real chance to do it as well because of special teams. So that's kind of the question mark for me. I don't know that Wilson is going to do it on special teams. All right, safety. Xavier Filsaime, JJR, Jordan Johnson, Rebel. Similar for me here as it relates to them getting on the field vis-a-vis special teams and or plays. I think JJR is going to be a special teams guy to start. Yeah. He reminds me a lot of a guy named Josh Thompson that played at Texas out of Nacogdoches. Just has that kind of ranginess to him, ball skills, fights through traffic a little bit. I think he could be a guy. Filsaime, though, has the speed, the real big-time speed. You think either of those will make the four game minute at safety and or at the special team level?
I think Filsaime will see that safety. I think that's where I lean a little bit. I do see him playing safety or kind of figuring in late game situations as well at the safety spot. JJR, I'm not sure. One thing I do know, Bobby, is both have great speed and both figure to be candidates for your kickoff duty, right?
Yeah.
Xavier Filsaime, I absolutely would have him penciled in as your number 1 kickoff team member at the moment. I think he's on that spot. I think his body's ready for it. He's got elite speed. One thing that was made certain to me whenever I was down in Orlando for the Under Armour All-American game this past January, Bobby, is Jordan Johnson Rebel wants folks to know that he's a sub-11 guy as well. And I think that's one thing that is very underappreciated about his game is his true straight line speed. And if that's the case, kickoff could be an option for him as well. And to your point, who knows what other roles will be available a la Josh Thompson. So I lean under for JJR, however, long-term this year for the red shirt.
Okay. One guy that is going to be yes or no, it's a binary decision, is the punter, Michael Kern. He either wins the job and is playing all year long, or he loses the job and he may not see a snap. You agree with that?
I do.
Yeah. I think it's just that simple for a punter. When you're talking
I agree. He's either punting or he's not. I think he's punting. I think he's the guy.
Okay. Interesting. All right. We'll do a sum up of exactly what we have there and give you the numbers in a second. But I want to say thank you again to our sponsor. Founder and CEO Chad Markham of Allegiant Digital Marketing is an Austin-based ad agency that has helped thousands of business owners for more than 25 years conquer some of the biggest challenges like finding new leads, finding marketing services that are good to promote your business and ones that actually work. So if you're ready to start making money in your business and grow with confidence, visit allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball and get a free marketing plan. Plus, you can save up to $2,500 in advertising with their Hook 'em Horns special today. Again, that's Chad Markham, allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball. Let's sum this up for folks. The guys that we think are definitely going to break the 4-game barrier: Ryan Wingo, Colin Simmons, and then it's a group of guys that we think will do it in time. Parker Livingston is a possibility, Jarrett Gibson, Aaron Butler, Jordan Washington, Brandon Baker, if there's injury, Alex January, we're on the fence, Kobe Black, Wardell Mack, Xavier Filsaime, JJR, all guys that we think are special teams, definite guys. So that's the list right now. 2 definites and Ryan Wingo and Colin Simmons. The rest, let's wait and see how it all plays out. But it is a talented overall group of players, and we're starting to see this depth. We talked about the 2022 class being the foundation, the 23 class being the breakthrough group. Let's see what this 24 group does starting this year. All right, that's going to do it for this afternoon's On Texas Football show. For CJ Vogel, I'm Bobby Burton. Hook 'em.